going to be hard to follow that. That was beautiful, thank you. Okay, I'm good. Okay, we're all ready to go. Well, first of all, oh, Dave, did you have that flashlight? I might.
It's right there, it's pink, it's right in front of you. It's on the podium.
Oh, 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 great. Oh, cool. Okay. Okay, I don't know if I can read my notes, I'll get up here. Anyway, I really want to thank you all for coming, and thank you, Mary Jo, and that was so heartfelt. I want to thank, first of all, the Hoffman Center, because when I'm just going to tell you straight out that it was Mark Zuckerberg's fault that I'm even here, because I was promoting this whole cryoablation thing with the website on Facebook, and then he got in some kind of trouble, and now his robots, every time I use the word breast or anything like that, the robots write me and say, I'm sorry, we can't support sex change. So, go figure, and I'm anyway, it's just, the robots don't listen. So, I was here in Manzanita, and I was thinking, okay, that's kind of a dead avenue. What do I do? And then I realized, you know, I'm here in Manzanita, and it was a couple years ago, I had a book, I'll tell you about in a minute, at an art fair here. And it was about my story of cryoablation, and it was so embraced. And the women here were about the most open I could imagine. And I realized the one thing we women have in common is we're great networkers, and we like to share things. And I just thought, you know what if I just had an art show? And I brought it to the Hoffman, and we kind of conceived of it, and there is a very synchronous thing that happened a whole year later that wasn't even in place last year that you'll be hearing about in a minute. That's kind of major, huge. And I just, you know, the women here believed in me and thought this was a good idea. And so I especially want to thank Dave Holt and his expertise in hanging. He has just a great eye, and the wonderful women, Corey and Marcia and Kathleen, who are here today, but they've made me feel so welcome. I threw them this very difficult inventory thing to do, and it's not how they normally. And everything was embraced and promoted. I mean, it's a fundraiser, not, you know, the Hoffman is going to benefit, but that's not the main thing. So, thank you. A big shout out to Manzanita. I love you. So, and I should tell you that we have a summer cabin. How long have we lived here?
23 years.
23 years. Just a little log cabin down here. Our kids all were raised here this summer. They're all avid surfers, and now we have the nephew hanging out, and the cousins from Britain coming over because it's such a great deal here. So, hello, cousins from Britain, raise your hand. Okay, that's the farthest away that anyone's coming for this show. So really, this talk merits two talk. One that's on the medical side, and I'll tell you in a minute what I did about that. But I think you're all here because you love art and the figure as much as I do. So I'm going to kind of tell my story through the paintings I've done. And I want to first tell you that I was one of the first women to use this procedure, cryoablation. So what does cryoablation mean? Because the number one question I've been asked ever since I did it 16 years ago is, what's that? If it's so good, how come I haven't heard about it? So I'm going to tell you, I just want you to know the name. That if I do anything else, I've accomplished my mission. So cryo means freezing, ablation means to ablate or to destroy. So basically, it's destruction of the breast cancer through freezing. And it's, I'm not going to give you this whole spiel, but it's left in the breast, so the immune system's job is to eat up this dead tissue, and when it eats it up, it often stimulates an immune response. So, if you want to know more about that, I will show you this book. They're mine and I'm keeping them. I had to go to Detroit, and that's where I had my procedure done with one of the pioneers for cryoablation. He'd been doing it on prostates for over 20 years. They get it all paid for and insurance and all that. But you know, it really helps that if you're going to be a patient pioneer and you make a deal with the doctor that your job is to go share with other women how great this is, that you're married to a really talented, smart, and award-winning author, because he might talk you into writing a book with him. You know, this is they're mine and I'm keeping it, and it's based on my journals going through the real time, and then he did the putting it together, and he did most the writing and the ghostwriting for the doctor, but the doctor co-wrote it, Peter Littrop. And it's been for sale, and articles on it have, well, it was the number, I forgot to write this in my notes, but it was the most read #1. It went viral and was the #1 article on Breast Cancer News Weekly in 2016. And just that is running around the internet. We had a big article last month, and so that's kind of the main way people come to our website. So what I decided to do that made sense to me was to do these Sumi scrolls, which are a celebration of the whole female form, because one of the things cryoablation does is breast conserving. And I think that after all these years with breast cancer, with a different standard of care, it's time that breast conservation just at least got into the discussion. And so I decided, I draw regularly with the female, well, there's Ben here, Ben's here, he draws. Anyway, there's a group of artists from Manzanita that have been working from models, mostly local models, I think all of them local models, on a weekly basis for years and years. So I'm doing it anyway, and I thought, well, you know, maybe we could sell these, and that would help fund women that want to try this, that don't have insurance coverage, or are their insurance doesn't cover it. All right, so anyway, I'm giving a shout out to my husband, Alex Paul. You should stand up so they can see you, because if you appreciate the efforts of the books, he's the one that found the doctor everything. He's a great internet researcher, and the book, if you're interested in our story, he's so good about putting some difficult scientific stuff into layman's terms. Really good. I mean, that's about the #1 thing that people tell us that they're so appreciative. It's so well researched. Doctors read it all the time and use it for. So, if you want to give him a hug or shake his hand or something, he might. Oh, I forgot to give you the card. He might. He has some cards that I'll give him to give out on his young adult series that he's an award winner of, so he might tell you about that. So you can. All right. Now, and because we're not doing if you happen to see what we have on the front desk, and read my little blurb on it, you'll know that this is what we call a social practice. And what social is kind of a new thing in the art world. Portland State's one of the national leaders, and that's where I've taught for 25 years. What social practice in art does is uses art to get the public to think about something in a new way, see it differently. And so this is very much a social practice type of exhibit. And like I said, I wanted to celebrate the female form and you know, raise money for it. And so since I don't want to take the time talking about all the medical stuff, we have developed this great little brochure that is on the table here, and I hope you'll all take one or several. And it tells about cryoablation and the science, and it has all our sites in the book on the back. But the really interesting thing that you'll want to know, especially if you know somebody that's coming up against breast cancer, you want to tell them about it, but you don't remember very much, is the people that might help you get this treatment. And so the first is Dr. Dennis Holmes, who is here on the West Coast. He's down in LA, and he's the head of the Frost trial and has really been a leader in this field. The other two women depicted we have here in the audience, which I'm thrilled about. The first is a nurse practitioner from Eugene, Ingrid Entrum. You want to stand? And Ingrid is, well, let me just tell you a little bit about her. Maybe you want to say something too, Ingrid. She has a thermography machine that she can detect breast issues well before a mammography machine, and she has a whole protocol to bring your breast back to breast health. And if you happen to have had cancer and you use the cryoablation, her protocols can really help you recover and stimulate the immune system. And then she's written a book that she's going to say something about.
Yeah, so very long, so I'll be in the corner afterwards, but it's called Protect Your Breasts, Freeze and Cure Your Breast Cancer, Reduce Your Risk of Breast Cancer or Its Reoccurrence. And the first person that had cryoablation came trundling into my office in 2010, and I did these images, and then I saw her at 6 months and then at 2 years, and the cancer was really active and a lot of heat and blood flow leading to it. When she came back, nothing, cold, inert, nothing was going on. And the woman says, great, I'm going to Detroit. I'm having my breast cancer frozen. And I said, Mary, excuse me? And she said, I'm going to Detroit. I read this book called They're Mine and I'm Keeping Them, Laura Ross Paul, and now I'm going to Detroit. So then I chased down Laura and her wonderful husband Alex and Peter Littrip, and now we're kind of becoming the cryoablation underground railroad that I'm trying to get people around the country to do this. But to me, this is the future of breast cancer care. And I'm trying to get women to know about eating organically, supplements, things that you can do as preventative. And then can I introduce this nice lady?
Well,
And this woman I'm sending ladies to too. Take it away.
Ingrid was the first medical professional that reached out to me. Alex and I really were out there for years and years on our own. And I remember we were down in California, and he said, Lori, you won't believe what I just saw in an email. Somebody who's medical actually wants to meet us and work with us. And I mean, that was the first. Now we got kind of a nice team going, but I mean, Ingrid has just been fantastic with her support, and she has such a great book. But now I want to introduce you and to an actual oncological breast surgeon that's here in Portland, Cynthia, the middle person on the brochure, Dr. Cynthia Axe. And Cynthia, will you stand? And I'm going to just let her say her own little spiel.
Sunday. Yeah, I'm really honored to be here, and I'm helping to bring that underground above ground. I work for a legacy health system in Portland, and I have experience with cryoablation. When I had my private practice in Michigan, we were freezing benign tumors in the office at that time. So we're establishing a program for cryoablation, and it should be up and running before the end of the summer. And I'm also an integrative, certified in integrative medicine, so I do treat the patient whole body, mind, body, spirit. Really excited about the opportunity to work with such great people, provide a really interesting and evolving technology to women, and help to preserve their femininity and their body image. So I do have some cards in the front. Anyone knows of anybody interested in needing the services, please send that to them. Thank you.